more than any other single figure, Jefferson was responsible for the creation of the slave breeding industry in the United States for actions he took as president.
Ned,
Yeah.
I'm gonna stop you there and have you to repeat that, because we have viewers who are looking in here who absolutely go down and pay honor and homage to that, again, edifice down on the banks of the Potomac River, and who revere him as a deity. So please repeat that.
More than any other single person, Thomas Jefferson was responsible for the creation of the slave breeding industry in the United States.
It's evident that he cares. What do you care about? Welcome to the Rock Newman Show. It's the Rock Newman Show.
The Minister of Wellness Ministries and Rock Newman Show 2.0 present free community health fair and seminar Saturday, March 18th, 2023 at Union Temple Baptist Church, Washington, D.C. RSVP before we reach capacity, dmvhealthfair.eventbrite.com, or click the link in the description box. If you can't make it in person, no worries. You can purchase the live stream link by visiting theministerofwellness.com under healing services, or once again, just click that link in the description box. Calling all potential vendors, sponsors, or volunteers, please submit a contact form via theministerofwellness.com or call 888-847-8026. That's 888-847-8026. It's high time for a health revolution.
Every farm with slaves was a slave breeding farm. Let's just start there. Because every child born to a slave owner enhanced the slave owner's wealth. And a slave owner was absolutely free to sell any of the enslaved people that he legally owned anytime he wanted. So there was, whether it was Jefferson or any other slave owner, there was always a pressure on, this is where we come up with the term the capitalized womb. There was always a pressure to coerce enslaved women to reproduce as early as they could and as late as they could, as often as they could. The pressure was unsubtle.
You guys, this book is north of 700 pages. You did extensive research. You've been lauded by historians and academicians for, you know, the incredible research that you did. When you said that women would be coerced and forced, and absolutely forced into submission for whatever the slave owner wanted. In that exhaustive research that you all do, what were the early ages that you found that the slave owners started to have the girl child starting to procreate?
As early as their bodies could do it.
Yeah, just as soon. And there is evidence that slave owners paid fair amount of attention to see when a girl child would be able to start bearing children. And in certain documents that we have read, it got so coercive that if she herself was not interested in partnering up with another African American on the plantation or the farm or the cotton field, wherever it might be, they would just point and say, this one, you go with him. It wasn't like you were actually being married. It was like, but the point is to get her pregnant as soon as possible, because, as we say, the capitalized womb, the moment that child came into the world, the credit that the owner of that child had increased automatically at least $50. And $50 was not a small amount of money for your average American at that time.
And so I'll stay still here with Charlottesville and Jefferson, who many revere as a damn near a deity. So Jefferson sort of obviously became president, you know, a highly respected figure, but Jefferson is someone that was quite okay with the laws being established that said the slave owner, if in the midst of him correcting the slave, should he kill him, which would have been murder, should he kill him, there was no legal consequence.
That was the law, generally speaking. I mean, from the foundations of the college, from the foundation, certainly, well, South Carolina, very much so. Yeah, Jefferson, I mean, more than any other single figure, Jefferson was responsible for the creation of the slave breeding industry in the United States for actions he took as president.
Ned,
Yeah.
I'm gonna stop you there and have you to repeat that, because we have viewers who are looking in here who absolutely go down and pay honor and homage to that, again, edifice down on the banks of the Potomac River, and who revere him as a deity. So please repeat that.
More than any other single person, Thomas Jefferson was responsible for the creation of the slave breeding industry in the United States.
And can you share with us how he went about doing that?
Very simply, I don't know how many people know this. There's a lot of real basic stuff that people don't know. A lot of people don't know that the slave trade from Africa was prohibited by federal law as of January 1st, 1808.
Yes.
What a lot of people don't know is that date's in the Constitution, Article 1, Section 9, not as the date at which the slave trade must stop, but as the date before which it cannot be prohibited. It's the only date in the Constitution, which otherwise is much more abstract. It was put in there at the insistence of the South Carolina delegates to the Constitutional Convention, who wanted a 20-year guarantee that the African slave trade could continue. There was a confrontation of power at the Constitutional Convention between slave breeding Virginia and slave importing South Carolina. Virginia held the political cards and it won. South Carolina's response was to become kind of a renegade state, which ultimately led the path to secession and civil war. Jefferson's role in this, well, in particular, Jefferson very proactively, as president in 1806, asked Congress to prohibit the slave trade at the earliest possible constitutional date. He already in 1806, he's asking to have this January 1st, 1808 cut off so that not one more African would be brought than after that date. And Jefferson really tried to spin it as a humane gesture, but
and got credit.
Ending slavery would have been humane,
Right.
but slavery didn't end. What that was protectionism. Jefferson was responding to not only his own financial predicament, but to that of his constituents in Virginia. He was making it impossible to bring in the cheaper foreign imports, so that if you want to speak of it in industrial terms, the human product raised in Virginia and Maryland became much, much more valuable, making his colleagues in Virginia much wealthier.
I would just like to add something to this, which is I think, very important. Throughout the whole history of slavery in the United States, and I'm speaking of the United States as opposed to the colonies before independence,
Right.
throughout that whole history, the people who were born and bred in Virginia and Maryland gained the most premium prices on the market for all kinds of reasons. And Jefferson was already aware of the fact that their population of enslaved labor had all of those traits and characteristics that other buyers in other parts of the region that were opening up for agriculture in various forms would be looking for. And throughout the whole history, up through the Civil War and abolition, Maryland and Virginia were the center of that. These were the most valuable property that you could buy and sell.
Now, can you give us an example as to why that was? You said the certain traits. Why was that? Why were the slaves from Maryland and Virginia deemed to be more valuable?